Welcome to a quick recording on how to use my Toastmasters dashboards. To get started, open your browser and go to reports.devinpearson.me. And here you will find a universal search where you'll be able to find your club, district, division, or area. If we would like to go to a district, I will use my home district, which is District 74. You can then select from here if you want to go to a particular division, and we'll remember your selection. So maybe let's go to Division F. And as we're looking at area directors today, let's go and find area F3. Now we'll click search, and that will take you through to your area dashboard. And once at this area dashboard, we'll see a few common or informational pieces that we have across all the dashboards. If you go to division and above, you get similar information. But for starters, we have the paid clubs. So now the paid clubs will show you what your current paid clubs is and what you started the year on. So this had four base clubs. So it is exactly where it needed to be. And it hasn't gained a club, but it also hasn't lost a club in regards to that. We then see the total membership. And total members is not the member payments, but the current actual registered Toastmasters that are in the program. If you went to download the membership list, these are the numbers you would see for this division. So currently it's at 103. We'll see that it's got a little upward trajectory there. Is it showing that it's up from the 90 base members? So we started the year on 90 members and it's now up to 103. So there's been a net growth of 13 in this area. We will see how many distinguished clubs there are. And currently in this area, there is 3, which is a 75% of clubs is distinguished. And then you'll see that this area is select distinguished. So it's just pulling through the status of where this division is, area is right now. We then look at some important stats that will be useful along your journey. The 20 plus member clubs. So how many of the clubs in your area are 20 members or above? And in this particular area, there is 3 clubs with 20 members or more. This is a really healthy statistic because clubs that are over 20 usually are more resilient when it comes to payment periods, being able to just engage in the program and have full meetings. You want to have clubs with 20 plus members. And so this is a good metric to watch in your area and really strive to make sure that you have as many clubs with 20 plus members. We then see the average goals that are done by each club. And so currently the average here is 6, which is really phenomenal. At this time of year, our target is 5. So 5 is obviously giving us distinguished status. This area has gone above, and the average has really been pushed out in terms of that. The clubs are doing better than they need to. We see that the division, though, is at an average of 6.6 for this division. So we are just below the curve in terms of this area, but it's still doing phenomenally well. That's just a metric to give you an understanding of how it's doing compared to the rest in that division, just to make it easier to understand what's going on. We then look over and we see the average educational ratio. And the average educational ratio gives you a good understanding of how many people are engaging the program. And so with this, it's usually out of a value of 1. So if we were to take the base of 90, which we saw is what we started on, and we take the number of levels that were done, the 26 awards, and we divide those two, we get 28.9, which means that almost 29% of the membership did a level. And that's hypothetical because some might have done more, and obviously some would have done less, but you're averaging on currently that 29% of the members in this area did educational levels. And so we're seeing that it is way below the average for this division, which is 0.4. So 41% is the average within here. So it's just something is that this area could do better in terms of doing more educationals. And so that's maybe something to do a speakathon within the area, any programs like that to really engage people to say, come and let's speak more. That will likely bring up those levels and bring them back to the average that you're seeing in the division, and potentially helping to bring in more clubs that are distinguished. If we move down, we'll see the club performance feedback. Now this gives you a little bit of feedback on each of your clubs if there is anything that you potentially need to work on. So for instance, this club, Bacon and Egg, has 19 members, and we'd really want them to be at 20 and not just the 90 below 20 that they have. We see that they are already distinguished with 7 goals, but it would be lovely for them to have that one more paid member to bring them to 20 plus members. We then have a corporate club here called the West Bank Toastmasters. They have 3 DCP goals, where we are recommending that they should have 5 by this stage of the year. And so that is something that needs to be worked on. We also saw in the earlier training that they only trained 2 of their 4 officers. And though we can't do anything about it now, it is just a note to see that potentially going into the new year, that they do battle with getting all of their officers trained, and you might need intervention going into the new Toastmasters year. We then see all the clubs in the area. So here, my home club of Honeydew is 39 base members, with membership at 29 now. So they have lost 10 members there, but it's still a really healthy number. We do see that they're 9 out of 10 goals, so almost on their way to Smedley. We see level completions at 13, with approximately 33% of the club doing educational levels. This is really difficult when you have so many members. They're not getting their levels done, and I suspect that is why we saw a good dip of 10 members that have come across from that across the year. We'll see on other clubs like Bacon and Eggs started on 14 and now on 19, West Bank at 17, going up to 35, and Government Department of EveGov is stayed consistent on 20. These 3 numbers, I believe, are some of the most important numbers that you need to keep track of across the year. So when this year starts, this base members will stay the same, and you'll see it reset, and your goals will start at 0, and your level completions will start at 0 as well. But as the year progresses, you want to make sure that these member numbers are always above 20 or on their way to 20. You want to make sure that the goals are tracking along through the year. And so a few places in my Toastmaster dashboard, I do target to show where you should be. And so the first 3 months of the year, the club should have at least 1 goal. Then every 2 months after that, they should have 1 additional goal. And that's the recommendation, to get them to 5 by the time that you hit May, when the dashboards update, and you can then see who is distinguished and who is not. So if you can track through the year and make sure that clubs are hitting those goals, it will really make a huge difference when you get to the end of the year and you need distinguished clubs. They will be on track because you've been chasing the membership at members at 20, and you've been making sure that their goals are tracking towards 5. Healthy clubs have more level completions where members are engaging in the educational paths, they're doing their pathways, and they're enjoying their time there because they are active. We see here for this particular corporate, this is of great concern to us, is that they're almost at the end of the year and no one's tracked any levels yet. This could be a simple case of that the VPE is unsure how to track them into Basecamp, and speaking to that VPE might be something that needs to be done before the year ends. And this can be done all the way through the year, is if these are not tracking, you are able to follow up and make sure that you see educational goals happening through the year and clubs are engaging in the program and getting as much from Toastmasters. People get the most from Toastmasters, usually stay on as members, and that membership stays at a healthy level. If I then scroll over in this table, we get a bit more information that we got from the dashboards. We can now see the October renewals, if they've been completed on time, the July renewals. We can then see your area club visits. Have they been done in November? As we can see, if they haven't been done yet, there is a pending mark and it shows up so you can find which clubs you still need to visit at a quick glance. And then we can see the numbers for the officers trained. And so, as we mentioned, this club that we saw in the report, we did not get the right number of officers trained in round 1 and 2. And so that is something that needs to be looked at going into the new year, as we see that this club didn't achieve distinguished status, and it's likely that the officers were not engaged, not trained in managing Basecamp and getting their members engaged in the program enough to be doing their levels, which would get us to distinguished. So that is a quick look at all the clubs in the area. We then move on to some more information for those in the area. We have a little payments card. This is on from district, division down to area. Just gives you a good sense of where the payments have come in for your area. We then see your recognition status. So this will give you a breakdown of what you need to do to become a distinguished area. So you need your visit reports. So you need more than 75% or more of each of them. And then you need to do your distinguished, you need distinguished requirements for the, to get this through, you need usually 2 clubs to be distinguished. You would need a third one to become select distinguished, and then you would need 1 paid club for president's distinguished. So this will currently give you a tracker through the year as to where you are in those goals. So when you start the year, it will usually say 0 out of 4, and there is, when we're not in the distinguished phases, I do have a potential distinguished status. So it will take any clubs that are over 20 members and have the goal set. So when I was talking about tracking on 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 over the year, if you're at those markers, you will potentially see if you're tracking correctly to become distinguished or select or president. So this will help you along the year to tell you if you're on track to be distinguished. This is just a breakdown of officers trained in a graph, retention rates for each club, how many people were new, how many retained. These are areas that I still will work on. They're there just for informational purposes. We then have the club locations map. And this map gives you a breakdown on the map from the Find a Club. It puts pins on the map so you can just see where all the clubs are and whether they're in the right locations that we are expecting for those clubs. So these are pulled from Find a Club, and they are usually updated twice a month. They are not real time. So if you do see that one is incorrect and you notify the club to fix it, it may take a few days for it to reflect correctly. And so that is everything that is on the Area Director dashboard. If we scroll back up, I will quickly show you an indication on a club that still needs some work. We can show these pages to our excos. It may help them in them devising and tracking themselves through this dashboard to try and help them get their way through to distinguished. Here you see the active membership. It does show you the net growth, how many goals are met, and the educational ratio, as well as a club health score. This is something that I've been devising and working on. It just gives you an indication out of 100 where we think the club is in terms of a healthy score. This is 39. They are making payments. They've got members, but they're just not engaging in the educational program. And so that's why you see a score below 50 there. It does show us that they did submit the club success plan and which day that was. So if you're needing that information early in the year, we can then see a little more visual breakdown of the 10 DCP goals. And you can see through here where any of the levels are done, and they'll light up green when they're completed. So you can see if there is any of the goals that still need to be done or can be worked on. This gives them a really good visual representation to make it a little bit easier. I then have this distinguished club targets for June. So here, as the year goes along, as I'd mentioned earlier, we see the monthly target and the current goals. And so this will light up in different colors depending on if they're at the goal. If it's 1 or 0, this is a very red box to just sort of try and alert club officials to say you're behind in terms of getting to distinguished for the year. And the hope is that that helps them inquire as to how do I take this further and how do I get the club back to being where it should be. I then have distinguished requirements, very much like we see on the traditional Toastmasters dashboards. I try to make it visually look very similar to the other one so that you can see which goals and what requirements are needed to be met. There is the club score breakdown with the percentages, just explaining as to how the weighting works. So as we'll see here in terms of this club weighting, the goals are very low. Educational ratio is 0. Officers haven't been trained and they've got no distinguished status. And so that's how this club score has worked out. There is the information from the club leadership handbook as to what needs to be done this month for these clubs. So like promote, beat the clock. There is also attend the first round of club training. So that's next year's club training. Complete the club success plan. Create a club budget. These are all informational for these clubs to say, maybe this is time that we need to be working on these. They don't have to go and read the club leadership handbook to go and see what is needed in the month. They can come and have a look here. It's always advised to make sure that they are reading those books. But if they just need a quick reference, one can come here to find that information. We then get a history of the club. And so this will give the history as to how the goals were achieved, whether they got distinguished status, how many members were in that club, and whether there was a net growth or a net loss over those years in the goal history. So this is just for informational purposes for anyone wanting to see how has this club performed in the past, and is it something that we as an area director need to be worried about, that they're tracking in the wrong direction and need intervention. It's a little breakdown on the membership payments, very much like what we saw at the top. This could probably come out given that I have those other bars. We then see that the due statuses, this was ineligible at the time of this, is that they paid late, and so they didn't get the credit for this. This does need to just be looked at. And then some member stats, as well as the goals again. We can then see the club information as it is on the Find a Club. And so all that information is here, as well as the location map to give you an understanding of where this club is, so you can just check that individually, that this information is tracking with the Find a Club. So those are all the tools in terms of, as an area director, I believe looking at the area director dashboard, you will see all the information and the clubs in your area, as well as all of their stats, to be able to compare them, making sure that they're tracking in the right direction and giving you a great high overview of your area, so you can make great decisions through the Toastmasters year. But hopefully these help, and thank you so much for watching through this whole presentation.